NPR.
This is The Indicator from Planet Money. I'm Waylon Wong.
And I'm Darian Woods. In the last year, the Department of Homeland Security says 12,000 new agents and officers have joined U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. This was an unprecedented hiring boom that more than doubled ICE's ranks.
The agency was aggressive in its recruitment efforts. It waived age requirements and offered signing bonuses of up to $50,000. The Department of Homeland Security says it's deploying agents to remove the, quote, worst of the worst from the U.S.
This large ramp-up has turned ICE into arguably one of the fastest-growing and most scrutinized workplaces in the country right now. That's because its performance is highly visible and at times questionable. The majority of immigrants caught up in this crackdown have no criminal convictions, many have legal status, and even U.S. citizens have been taken into custody.
Recent surveys show an increasing number of Americans saying the immigration crackdown has gone too far. Some politicians and community leaders are even calling for ICE to be dismantled. Others say they need better training or a culture shift or both. Are those changes needed, and would they even make a difference? Today on the show, law enforcement experts and former officers assess DHS's performance.
Support for NPR and the following message come from Edward Jones. What does it mean to live a rich life? It means brave first leaps, tearful goodbyes, and everything in between. With over 100 years of experience navigating the ups and downs of the market and of life, your Edward Jones financial advisor will be there to help you move ahead with confidence. Because with all you've done to find your rich, they'll do all they can to help you keep enjoying it. Edward Jones, member SIPC. This message comes from LinkedIn ads. One of the hardest parts about B2B marketing is reaching the right audience. That's why you need LinkedIn ads. You can target your buyers by job title, company, role, seniority, and skills. All the professionals you need to reach in one place. Get a $250 credit on your next campaign so you can try it yourself. Just go to linkedin.com/NPRpod. That's linkedin.com/NPRPOD. Terms and conditions apply. Only on LinkedIn ads.
This message comes from Instacart. Let's talk groceries, specifically your groceries, with Instacart. You want your groceries just the way you like them, right? Well, the Instacart app lets you do just that. They have a new preference picker that lets you pick how ripe or unripe you want your bananas. Shoppers can see your preferences up front, helping guide their choices. Instacart. Get groceries just how you like.
The Trump administration's massive tax and spending law gave $750 million to something called the Federal Law Enforcement Training Centers. These are the facilities that train recruits for ICE, U.S. Border Patrol, and U.S. Customs and Border Protection.
Mark Brown taught at the main campus near Brunswick, Georgia for 5 years.
I enjoy training. I like when the light bulb goes off, so to speak.
The Georgia facility is so big that it has its own zip code. There are dorms, classrooms, and shooting ranges. There's even a mini replica of a city spread out over more than 35 acres.
It has storefronts, shops, federal buildings, and then you have like neighborhoods behind it where you have houses, you have duplexes, trailers, apartment-style buildings. Because when we would teach crowd control, we would go over there. We would use that city to show them, okay, this is how you're going to line up on the street.
So Mark would get the trainees lined up on the street of this fake city, and he would tell them, this is what you do if you're trying to arrest someone and a crowd starts to form, or maybe there are protesters.
If they're protesting on the sidewalk, they have the right to protest your presence. So that's not something for you to engage in. And then as soon as your person is handcuffed, let's get them up and get them out of there. Like, we don't need to stick around. We don't talk to the crowd. We're not actively going back and forth. We're not here to debate their points. They're allowed to protest our presence. That's fine. Our biggest thing is keeping everybody safe.
Mark says he's not seeing those protocols in some of the videos of federal agents that are circulating. And that makes him wonder about the training that the newly recruited ICE or CBP agents are getting or not getting.
So how much instruction do new ICE recruits get? Well, there's been a lot of contradictory information on this, including from the government.
Different officials within the DHS have said that the training for immigration agents has been shortened. At the same time, the agency says media outlets are spreading lies about ICE training.
We reached out to DHS for clarification. Spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin told us that officers are getting the same number of training hours.
Here's what we were able to figure out based on the numbers we got from DHS. New ICE recruits get 14 weeks of training. This is fewer weeks than what ICE agents were previously getting. It's also shorter than the national average for state and local law enforcement officers.
Matthew Ross is an economist at Northeastern University who studies police training. He says he's concerned that the program for ICE officers has changed significantly in a short amount of time.
I think there's a lot of reasons to be quite worried about what the long-term implications of that are going to look like. And even what we're sort of seeing in places like Minneapolis, it might be a direct result of that.
One major change in the ICE training has to do with learning Spanish. Previously, new ICE agents got 5 weeks of Spanish instruction. DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin told us that the agency replaced those classes with translation services covering multiple languages. It is not clear what those services are.
Matthew says he's also concerned that ICE recruits aren't getting enough high-quality field training. That's when new officers are paired with more experienced ones to learn on the job.
Matthew and some other researchers studied field training using data from the Dallas Police Department. They found that if a recruit was assigned to a more aggressive field training officer, that recruit was significantly more likely to use force.
The furthest we could look out, just based on the data we had, was 3 years. And from as far as we can tell, if you happen to get paired up with a field training officer that used force frequently, you were just more likely to use force for the entirety of that 3-year period. And in fact, it could be true that you just use force more for the rest of your career.
In other words, new law enforcement officers model their behavior after more experienced ones, and direction from senior officers, whether explicit or implicit, could be a bigger influence on new recruits than their formal training. That's according to Seth Stoughton. He's a law professor at the University of South Carolina and a policing expert. He's also a former police officer himself.
I would be shocked if some of what we see that's problematic in the way that ICE agents and CBP agents are handling these various tasks, I would be shocked if it's actually a training failure at this point. Because some of the agents that have been publicly identified are longstanding veterans.
Case in point, in Minneapolis, U.S. citizen Alex Preddy appeared to be recording agents on his cell phone as an observer. The 2 agents who shot and killed him have been employed since 2014 and 2018, according to ProPublica.
Doesn't matter how you're trained if your supervisor says you run up to those cars and if they don't get out immediately, you break the windows. Even if you are trained to not do that, even if you are trained about why that's a really bad tactic, about why that's likely to provoke resistance, about how that's likely to contribute to an otherwise avoidable use of force, if that's what you're told to do by your supervisor, and if that's what you think the peers around you expect you to do, that's what you're going to do.
Both Seth and economist Matthew Ross say they expect the administration to face multiple lawsuits over how ICE and other federal agencies are conducting their immigration crackdown. Seth, however, doesn't believe that the specter of costly future legal settlements will motivate the administration to change its current tactics.
One of the things that we've seen from ICE, at least, and from CBP, is an approach to accountability that I think communicates to agents that it's just performative. That really removes one of the legs from the stool that we use to get officers and agents to perform as professionals. The financial incentives alone probably aren't going to do anything, especially not with an agency that just views that as the cost of doing business.
For her part, DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin told us that ICE recruits get the same training they always have. By the way, DHS confirmed to NPR on Tuesday that McLaughlin will be leaving the agency. She's been the administration's public face in defending the mass deportation policy over the last year.
Tomorrow on The Indicator, we look at how ICE is planning to spend over $38 billion turning large warehouses into detention centers as part of its immigration crackdown.
This episode was produced by Julia Ritchie with engineering by Jimmy Keeley. It was fact-checked by Sierra Juarez. Kicking Cannon is our show's editor, and The Indicator is a production of NPR.
This message comes from Amazon Business. How can you grow your business from idea to industry leader? Bring your vision to life with smart business buying tools and technology from Amazon Business. Simplify how you stock up to get ahead. Go to amazonbusiness.com for support. This message comes from Charles Schwab. When it comes to managing your wealth, Schwab gives you more choices, like full-service wealth management and advice when you need it. You can also invest on your own and trade on Thinkorswim. Visit schwab.com to learn more. This message comes from Capella University. That spark you feel? That's your drive for more. Capella University's FlexPath learning format lets you earn your degree at your pace without putting life on pause. Learn more at capella.edu.